great early skirmishing as well. Just makes it such a no-brainer to pick this one up. And given across the Tarzan, I'm actually curious what the answer is here from JDG. Because you need to have something that can go against this Wukong in the early stages and also provide the team fight that the Wukong does.
Well, now we're going to see JDG go towards Hope on that Aphelios. They might just lock in, honestly, their support here. I will say maybe you go for a jungler instead, because you do end up kind of pigeonholing yourself on that third pick if you end up locking in a support right now. But yeah, there's so many available now. Lee Sin for Kanavi has been a monster. It is still very good into the Wukong. You still get that early skirmishing power, and if you can get those big flanks that we saw with Aki earlier on today, you can make some big plays happen for yourself. And Kanavi saying, yeah, I'm happy to go with the most jungler of junglers for him and JDG.
Yeah, I think the thought process is, I can get the Dragon's Rage onto the Wukong as they look for the engage, but I still think the Wukong just such an incredibly strong jungler at the moment. So we'll have to see if Kanavi can have the early impact that we've seen him from a couple of times. On the opposite side, though, LNG, I'm not the biggest fan of opting into the Kalista into the Aphelios. Aphelios actually has a pretty good matchup against the Kalista and has the outscale potential. So LNG, if they're going to go towards this Kalista, which they do, are certainly locking themselves in towards a mid-game composition. And JDG could look to just try and find things to bridge the gap until like Aphelios comes on at a later point. 369 we know likes to take these late game scalers into the top side as well. So that could just be the option.
Man, honestly, I really like this Lulu if they do end up picking it up here for Missing. Not exactly the most common of picks for Missing. Does love his Alistair, does love his hard engages, but would just give you so much protection in that lane. Like you said, you're going for a very high mid-game kind of spike here for LNG with the Wukong, Kalista, and the Renata. The Lulu does so much to just keep whichever carry gets focused alive.
I'm curious to see now what the bans are going to be the focus of from LNG. I think looking towards something like a Gwen ban could work out really well, because I think 369 will definitely want to try and go towards that. A Lulu that facilitates both an Aphelios and a Gwen is always terrifying, and Yagao can always go back towards something like a Lysandra or something along these lines that can still provide an engage tool. So I wouldn't be surprised if we actually potentially see something like a Gwen Lysandra ban coming through from LNG, targeting both the ability for 369 to play that on top side and also nullifying anywhere else that can kind of go for an engage here for Yagao.
Yeah, honestly, I wouldn't mind to see a Camille ban coming out here for JDG. Just kind of fully ban out Ala, make sure he cannot get anything that he's very prolific on. Back when he was on DMO as natural, of course, massively big into the Fiora and the Camille. So if they really want to try and pinch his champion pool, and quite honestly, it wouldn't be a bad strategy. Ala's had a poor say of it in spring and summer. He has not been looking as good as he did in 2021 Worlds, but they decide to go with the Galio instead, so getting rid of one half of that combo that they could have ended up going with.
Yeah, maybe they're trying to set up for a Twisted Fate pick, but I still think with Silas up and how good Silas would be for LNG, I don't think you really want to go towards the Twisted Fate here. I think Lysandra is probably your best bet blind here for Yagao, because you are seriously lacking engage and you need something. And I imagine, well, I thought they were going to leave the counter pick for 369, but looks like they're more worried about the mid lane pickup for Doinb.
I mean, Doinb being his dark technologies, not a man. He's not someone who is afraid to go towards the slightly weird and wonderful within the champion pools. Of course, Kled will always be available to him there. Without the Gwen, though, on the table, it does make it very much more difficult to try and go for those kind of AP solo laners that you don't really have access to. So now LNG, you know you're going into a Sejuani, very safe, very much a just kind of, beefcake kind of of engage just to try and soak it up. So they're going to do the exact same thing. Ala going to go onto this Ornn, good team fight prowess, and again, just a beefcake to be able to absorb all of that damage. And the Talia coming in for LNG, they are going in for that mid-game spike hard.
Yeah, definitely going to be trying to play towards that. And Yagao looks like going to go towards the Azir. So JDG opting towards the late game scaling with good engage coming through, as long as 369 can find the ultimates with the Sejuani. Whereas for LNG, the ability to play the map early with Doinb, start to get rolling in towards the mid game where they're going to be strongest. But again, that is my big question mark. LNG, we talked about their early game not being strong. This composition needs to get going early, needs to be able to feed kills towards the Kalista and play towards early dragon spikes. Otherwise, you run into a problem where JDG can just look to outscale you.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think you're looking at outscaling very hard. How do you kill this Lwandy without putting a million spears into her in the late game? The Azir, the Aphelios will eventually become monsters. I will say, though, we actually had talked about it a little bit, about the Azir not having a great win rate whatsoever within the LPL, actually having about, I think it was a 32% earlier today, but then, yeah, it's gone down because that Azir did lose. So I actually think it's lower than 30% in the LPL, which is an interesting, kind of like, look at the different styles of the leagues. LCK has over a 60% win rate at the moment, so differences in terms of how teams play around it. But if it does get to late game, Azir is still Azir, and Azir will still destroy you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very worried for LNG here. I think this is a composition that they need to try and show how much they've grown, and I haven't been thoroughly impressed with the way that they've tried to play the early stages of the game. So if they can make this work, I mean, this is going to be a big step up for LNG, and maybe we can have a very different discussion about what LNG looks like after this game. But this is something where they really need to prove that they brought something new to the table.
Yeah, well, we'll see what they can go for as we're jumping into game one. It's a big moment here for LNG. Can they turn a corner and maybe take a scalp off of one of the big boys? And for JDG, they need to bounce back after a loss to FBX. We are jumping onto the Rift for game one of this best of three. And we'll see how it all goes as we jump onto the sky. The Chillin, just like Keelan. Is it Keelan or Chilin? I can't remember what they're called. Chillin. Yeah, Chillin is Chillin. Yeah, or is he Chillin and Chillin? Different ways of bringing it up. But see if we're going to set something up. You talked about the early priority on the Dragon Spikes. How do you want LNG to kind of go about that? I'm just going to kind of talk us through what you expect to see in the first 10 to 15 minutes of the game, realistically, for LNG, if they're in a perfect world.
I'd love to see Tarzan trying to play around Doinb in the mid lane. I think you've got decent setup where you're able to throw down the Unraveled Earth, which guarantees the stun for Yagao if he ever tries to get himself out of the equation with E. Tarzan has really good damage in the early stages, and as long as you're able to get Doinb control over this mid lane, he can then start to link up with Tarzan, play down towards the Light and Lwandy in the bot side, look for dives against Hope and Missing, and there's very little that JDG can really do to stop that, but it does heavily rely on Tarzan being able to succeed with Doinb through this mid lane.
Well, already we're seeing pings going out as both teams try to establish control. I will say the level 1 from the Kalista Renata, exceptionally powerful, especially with that passive you get on the Renata auto attacks. You're able to kind of do that little bit of extra damage should you proc it on afterwards. So already we're seeing LNG using that power to kind of push themselves forward, and Hope has to respect it. He cannot just walk forward onto this.
No. He will take a little bit of damage, still has the Zebram there, so can heal up just a smidge, but definitely a very potent lane and something that you're going to have to watch out for. Even just the trade patterns, as you can see from Light and Lwandy, very difficult to deal with, because Light can always stack the E onto a minion before he uses onto Hope to guarantee that he's able to get chase down potential. Lwandy as well, being able to get the shield is going to be super good in those early stages when you want to try and go for those auto attack trades against Missing. So just easy for LNG to get control of the wave at level 1, so they hit level 2 first. Kanavi is on the bottom side. Whoa, okay.
Okay, well, yeah. Look. Yeah, you take that. Lwandy just going in with the flash handshake, but Kanavi is here. Do they try and go onto Hope here? There's going to be the Sonic Wave landing. Light has to flash away. Kanavi will now follow, but Kanavi already starting to make his mark.
Yeah, I mean, really nice play from Kanavi. Red buff goes into Gromp means that he hits the level 3 and instantly goes towards that bot lane. So already trying to help Hope and Missing establish control. But now Tarzan is going to go for an invade. And with both push in mid and bot, this is really good from LNG to get the snowball rolling.
This is what you wanted to see as well. The smite will come down there onto Kanavi, who does have a ward and a safeguard, so sadly will not lead to anything. But LNG doing what you said you wanted to see from them, which is them kind of, looking to combo up their mid and jungle.
Yeah, and at least trying to get some advantages in the early stages where if Tarzan can get the lead over Kanavi, it becomes very hard for Kanavi to contest any sort of ganks. But at the moment, it's actually working out relatively okay. The only downside is losing a ward for Kanavi, which does suck a little bit, but starts to move back up towards the top side, so we'll be able to completely clear out.
Ignite. Allah might have to be forced to flash here. He's going underneath the tower. Doesn't land the Q, and that's going to be another bit of, kind of pressure point here for JDG, as we can see Kanavi going in on the Doinb, who has no mana. Tarzan trying to just keep him away. And all of a sudden, we're seeing the power of JDG. They're just saying, look, Kanavi is stronger in these skirmishes, and why we saw Kanavi feel comfortable to take the lead into the Wukong.
Well, it's a little bit uncomfortable for Tarzan because the idea was, hey, I've got push for Ala in top side. I can help Doinb get push mid, and then I can rotate up to take the scuttle and potentially get a double scuttle crab here. Because, as you can see, he's already got the one on bot side. But because Ala lost that trade so hard, he no longer has the control of top. So now it makes it easier for Kanavi to link up with Yagao in mid and contest the push. And always having 369 there means that Tarzan has to back away. But Kanavi even taking the Raptors away while also getting that scuttle would be super nice. But it looks like he actually left the scuttle behind to clear out his Krugs instead.
Now LNG find themselves in a little bit of a hole right now. You can see the power of just this Lwandy in the top side. You know, this Ornn was picked into it, but you're able to have that freedom to pick that combat summoner, which feels so weird as a Lwandy that you'd be picking up a combat summoner. You're supposed to be a super tank, but you can see just how much damage you do so early. And Kanavi recognizing this, saying, hey, this Ornn doesn't have any flash right now. They could maybe make something work as they really try to just keep him underneath this tower, underneath the pressure.
Yeah, and I mean, the wave will be pushing slowly into Ala, but if you can sneak into this topside brush, that's where Kanavi can try and make a play. Level 6 isn't for another 45 seconds, so I don't think you want to stick around that long as Kanavi here.
No, you don't really want to be wasting too much time. That being said, though, there's
the ward as
now
well.
They'll have the ward on him. He knows he's been spotted out here, so already Yagao starting to roam up here. I think Ala's just going to have to accept it. He's going to have to maybe not get a lot of this wave. He's going to have to just be in experience range for the moment, but it's been thinned out very nicely, so good move from Ala as he walks forward and gets a trade off about half his HP, or down below half his HP, but that does open up now Tarzan to say, hey, we know exactly where the enemy jungler is. We get ourselves the first dragon of the game.
And this is what I was talking about with LNG. A huge amount of their early dragons tend to be pretty much solo in situations like this, where Tarzan spotted out where the enemy jungle is. He was like, okay, cool, I can move across. Like, Lwandy is here to help out, but it's not like a deliberate play off of wave states to actually make the dragon go their way. So at least now, LNG just going to back it all up. And so dragon taken, or Kanavi wasting time on top side.
Moves here from LNG. No one going down just yet. We're still waiting on first blood, but we're not without action. I think that's the best way you can kind of put it. 6 minutes in, we have seen plenty of summoners burned. You can see already Hope waiting for both of his to come back off of cooldown, as Kalista did end up getting a reset there. So Light trying to come back on top of this mid lane. And the dragon stacking that you talked about is in favor of LNG. If they can keep that up, they have themselves a win condition. They just need to make sure they keep it up.
And I want to see, again, there's a bit more coming through from LNG when it comes to actually getting kills, or at least helping Doinb get out of lane. Because Doinb now at level 6 will be able to reset and teleport back in towards the mid lane. But this Talia definitely needs to start impacting down towards this bot side, because with the CS in the position that it is, and with Rift Herald now about to spawn, you should give Hope Missing actually an opportunity to try and contest up towards this top side.
Well, full committal to try and get this scuttle for Kanavi. Does get him level 6, and that's why they give it so much committal, because they know that that was a big power spike to try and disengage. Doinb is in the bot lane, has got himself a summoner spellbook, so trying to see if he can straight it back, but Hope now in a little bit of trouble. He will get over to the other side of the wall, though, and I don't think he's going to be going down anytime soon. They try and get in with the handshake, and they will catch him out. He flashes away as soon as he got it back up. He ends up losing it again, so Doinb, nice little roam down for here from him, and he's honestly trying to make plays.
Yeah, I mean, this is what we wanted to see, right? Doinb getting into this bot side, will not be able to connect with Kanavi, but a few times now we've seen Doinb on this Talia, and the walls just haven't been in the right spot. Yagao now, trying to see if he can catch Doinb on the roam back.
Oh, he's trying to go for the roam back. Kanavi is over the wall. The Sonic Wave will land. Do they fully commit to this? Lwandy is in the wings. JDG, they hold the trigger right now, as we can see. Trade of ultimates and topside as the wet noodles continue to slap each other in the face.
Yeah, they still got a bit of a punch to them, though. That was wet noodles. Like, you do have to be careful in this top side, but either way, JDG again just kind of whittling the early game presence of LNG, even having a slight goal lead for themselves just based off of the advantages they got.
Oh, Hope, he has no flash, but he does have a heal. Is it going to be enough? It is not! And at 8 minutes and 20 seconds, LNG get themselves the first blood in the bot side. Missing was missing, and that means it was a 2v1.
And that's the thing, is that in this lane, if you ever leave as missing, it gives the opportunity for Light to go aggressive, even hitting level 6 first. Just perfect timing. And honestly, I was going to hit on the summoner spells for Hope. I'm surprised he didn't take cleanse in this lane. I know you're probably expecting an early Mikhail's coming through from missing, but the fact that you're up against the Renata, sorry, I forgot the name, Renata, you really need cleanse because of both the handshake and also the ultimate in these team fights.
Tarzan really wants this Gromp right now. This will give him level 6. He takes over to it, but now he needs to run away. Decoy over the wall. Keeps him nice and safe. Allah, though, having to play weak side means he's just going to have to accept. There are 4 members here. Back away. You do not have the Orn Horn, and that's going to be 369. 3 plates for him right now. This is Lwandy. 20 CS up and also getting a huge amount of money into her. This is Lwandy's getting beefy.
Yeah, she's going to be in a good spot. Should also give the opportunity for JDG to take this Rift Herald by themselves as well. You've got resets coming through for Yagao and 369, but they both have TP to get into the lanes that they need. No flash on Doinb as well, because on the replay we just saw he burnt that with Yagao trying to make a play on towards him.
Don't have the Weaver's Wall here either. Lwandy does have the hostile takeover, but not really got the rest of his team. You can see Allah coming back in from base, even if he was there, didn't have his ultimate, so that's just going to be the Rift Herald picked up here for JDG. And where could they start to use it? Honestly, again, like we said, LNG needed to snowball. They needed to look more confident, but right now it's JDG pulling the strings, making the plays, forcing LNG to react to them.
Yeah, and really nicely done here by JDG as well. So what they're going to do is move... Ooh,
Nicely done.
They move the players top, so they end up getting the Rift Herald on towards the charge. I actually thought that they were Kanavi and Missing were going to stay at a range of the gold because they actually let Hope pick up the Rift Herald, which means they wouldn't have to share the gold. But Tarzan looking now.
Kanavi caught between a rock and a hard place, has to flash away from the Reaver's Wall, but Tarzan picks up a kill. Kanavi has gone down. Yes, you got the turret on top side, but this is great for LNG. Not only do you slow down the tempo from JDG, you're also creating your own for light in this bot side.
And this is what we're talking about, where JDG, if they don't get off to these kind of roaring leads in the early stages, have a tendency to overextend and get caught out. And that was just kind of proof there with Kanavi. You'd already committed 369's ult to mid. Yagao wasn't in a position to try and follow up. And LNG just rightfully used the Weaver's Wall and catch out Kanavi. So not really respecting what LNG had available on JDG's side.
And Light now going to try and start up around us. That's the fastest, longest move I've ever seen from a Scuttle Crab in my life, but Light does secure that one there, gets himself up to level 8, and you can take your time around this objective now as LNG. You know you're on a good reset timer. They're already going to see if they can put Yagao up topside because he's got a teleport to try and deal with Allah. You're not quite at 14 minutes, so you're not going to have the Unleashed one, but Kanavi, he's just going to go for it because, again, you're waiting for Doinb to get back onto the map, and yeah, JDG, they're just full control of it. I feel like this is a weird moment here. I feel like LNG should have had this.
I agree. I think this should have been a spot where LNG were able to take this, but the reset's not really coming through. And again, early dragons aren't the forte of LNG. They're not really in sync to try and get stuff in the early stages, and the resets being off kilter there meant that JDG get to swoop in, they take it, and at least, again, buy time for them. Like, we always kind of talk about buying time with the later dragons, but it's just the exact same with the early ones. If you now add on another 5 minutes before you have to try and contest for a dragon, that's fantastic for a composition with an Azir and a Felios.
Yeah, it really, really is. JDG just still have the gold lead, despite being 2 kills down, despite everything that's gone on. The first tower in the top side really just opening up the map for them so much. And you can see just how far back Allah has to play on the top side. He is just consistently at his own tower, tier 2 in that top lane, which means he's not really in a position to help out his team should they fight over a dragon or a Rift Herald. So great map movements from JDG, keeps themselves up in the ascendancy, and you're really hoping that this one-item spike is as big as it has to be for the side of LNG.
It's also the fact that it limits the plays that LNG can make. Because one of the big things that people underestimate is, like, once you start to put Doinb down into the side lane, you're not able to actually play as easily around mid lane from bot side as you are from mid to bot. Because you can look for terror dives in longer lanes, you can set all that stuff up, but it's much more difficult to try and get control over the bot side and then try and make it in towards a quick play in mid as well because the shorter lane. So it now limits Doinb's potential to actually try and make plays in the mid lane. Whereas Yagao now, free farming the top side, knowing that he's up against an Orn who's not really going to be able to do particularly much against them. And 369 is like totally fine against Doinb because, again, Doinb doesn't do a whole amount of damage to him. So this is where you see JDG actually being able to slow the pace of the game because that top side turret went down.
There's such safety, like you mentioned, with the Azir. That being said, Missing and a link up with 369 and Kanavi. Lwandy working with Tarzan here to make sure they can't move forward. They don't have exact vision here on JDG, but they are going to force them back. It's 3 minutes till Dragon spawns, so I'm not quite sure what we're looking for here, but we're looking for a fight. So we're going to go straight in. We're going to see the Cyclone use. Kanavi uses his ultimate to try and disengage. 369 completely misses away from the ultimate. The Ornhorn over the side here, and they're not really doing much damage to 369. You can see just how tanky he is, and they're caught between a rock and a hard place. Lwandy does have to use the Fate's Call and will get himself out to safety. Doesn't have to expend his flash, but I don't know why we're fighting there.
This is a fight for summoner spells. So Doinb happened to flash, trying to see if they could get LNG to burn summoners before that next dragon is very crucial for JDG. Especially if you end up getting Doinb in a position where 369 can look to engage on him, Kanavi can maybe look for a kick. You now have a new target for LNG for the next fight. And this is something that the LPL does, which is almost exclusive to the LPL. You see some teams like G2 do it in LEC, basically don't ever see it in LCK, is actually using summoner spells as mini objectives. And that fight was that exact moment where they're like, okay, this next dragon is probably going to be contested by LNG. How much can we burn on LNG's side to make this fight easier for us?
Yeah, absolutely agree. I think it's a great way of kind of demonstrating that it's saying, look, our ultimates are going to be back. We're going to have the Dragon's Rage kick. We're going to have the Glacial Prison. We're not losing that much off of this, so we're going to be in a good position to fight in a minute and a half's time. So you've lost the flash off of Doinb, like you mentioned. You're going to be able to try and, get a little bit of ignite off of Lwandy as well. So wait to see now what LNG are able to do. We will see 369 now with the Frostfire Gauntlet just kind of pushing in this top side. And you can see just how tanky he is. Even that last engage, he just eats up so much damage before he even gets close to being in lethal range. And right now, we're kind of at a moment where you need to fight at this next objective, but you haven't even picked up Doinb's Mythic yet. You're still waiting for that Everfrost.
And LNG just can't really contest JD. Well, they should be able to contest JDG on sides, but the misalignment on who's pushing where means they actually don't get a chance to, because Doinb's contesting the push from 369. Allah has to give up the play on bot side, so you get 2 towers for JDG. Will give LNG the opportunity to go towards this Rift Tower, as you see, but now you can maybe create the advantage that you need on this bottom side for the Dragon in 45 seconds, where you can litter this bot side with wards and get these decent resets in just before the Dragon spawns.
Yeah, Ignite will be back up for 369 as well. 35 seconds till the Dragon spawns. Kanavi just pushing in that lane to make sure they have pressure there. As we can see, 369 with a teleport available. It is unleashed, so if he can find a good TP flank, I'm looking at that ward right behind the Dragon Pit on your minimap to where he can maybe kind of find himself an opportunity. But 20 seconds till that spawns. How do we want to look at this fight? Where do LNG want to try and make this their home?
I mean, they need to find a decent front to back where Doinb's able to use the Weaver's Wall to cut people off. Kanavi is going to be keeping his eyes on Doinb, though, to see if he can get that kick. Abuse the fact that that summoner spell is down from earlier.
It is down. He's got himself an exhaust and a ghost, so he's got a little bit of escapability. Here comes the Ornhorn very early on. They're going to try and fully commit onto Yagao, but there's a bit of a disconnect here. The Moonlight Vigil is good. The hostile takeover only lands onto one, but Yagao is dead. Now 369's the next target is Allah trying to jump forward onto Hope. Hope is still very, very healthy, but he cannot stay in the fight for long. LNG, it looked disconnected, but they find 2 picks.
Yeah, I mean, you still got the Weaver's Wall here, so again, catching Hope out, separating them away. Maybe they can actually look for this here.
They're still going for it. We will see the safeguard back to Hope, as Allah might have gotten bitten off a little bit more than he can chew. We can see Kanavi going forward in. He will get his hand shook back and will not contest any further. These health bars are low, but the Callista is already trying to see if they can put some spears into this. They should be able to get the smite and the decoy over the wall. So second dragon for LNG. They get what they wanted.
But JDG are looking for mid-tower. They're trying to keep the pressure here because they know they've got TP from TP from Yagao, TP from 369, and now they can actually look for the pressure on the mid lane here and actually look to try and crack this open.
Not quite able to get it though. Allah still had available, or the teleport available to him, and with the Callista with full summoners as well, they should defend it. So it's an equal game in terms of gold, despite the 4 kills to none scoreline for LNG, and they get the dragon.
So we're going to look here. Very quick engage from Allah, which I actually like. You have a very split out team. JDG pretty much lining up perfectly for him here as well. But Doinb as well basically gets to cross an X here if he wants. Tarzan with a great engage onto Yagao. And JDG need a pick to start this off. with the way that LNG's composition works, they're incredibly strong at the moment with that 1-item spike. And because JDG aren't able to get on towards Doinb here, LNG are just able to pick up 2 quick kills off the start of the fight with really good positioning and engages from Ala and Tarzan.
Ooh, nice flick back there with the seismic shove. Yagao needs to be careful, but a TP coming on the backside of this. Doinb, he doesn't have flash. He's going to get caught out. He thought he was doing the catching, but it is himself who falls down, and that's just a little bit of an unfortunate movement there for LNG, and this is kind of why we're saying, like, how good are this team, because it's little moments like that that are just causing them so much stress and so much anxiety.
We have to see what JDG can get from this, though. TP for a pick, not really worth it when you are still looking at a bunch of dragons potentially coming up 3 minutes until the next one, so 369 won't have that TP available. Whereas when you look across at Doinb, who's going to be able to run the Unseen Spellbook, he can get involved even if he doesn't have the TP with the Reaver's Wall. Ala's TP should be back up as well, so honestly, if you're LNG, you're kind of looking towards the next fight going, okay, well, we can always let a dragon go across, but if this lets us crack open top tier 1, maybe put pressure onto the tier 1 in mid as well, like, that's a lot that they can pick up for the dragon. They do have to just be mindful, though. Rift Herald is about to time out, so keep your eyes on Tarzan. He just seems to be running straight mid to plunk that Rift Herald down.
Yep, he's going to try and make that one work for his team, but still very good. It's very equal, honestly, for both sides right now. But like we said in the Champ Selector, Zir and Aphelios will just scale to unimaginable heights if they are allowed to just sit there and do whatever they can. You can already see that the Rift Herald has about 20 seconds left on it, so immediately Tarzan's going to have to drop that one in mid. It's going to get about half the tower down. Honestly, I don't think they're going to be able to take it down. I mean, so there's no TPs.
They should be,
actually,
yeah. There's no one there.
To get it. There's no one there for the moment.
Yeah,
Kanavi will be here. He's a little late.
Reset. Right,
Yeah.
JDG reset at a terrible time, so very late on getting back, and it means that they should be able to get the tower, so nicely done. JDG will clear it out before it gets a second charge, but yeah, just the late resets by JDG gave LNG a little bit of a tempo window there, and they used it quite well.
All right, 20 minutes now, 32,000 gold apiece. We're looking at kind of the big mid-game, both teams hitting big item spikes. What is going to be the catalyst? Do you think it's going to be this next dragon, or do you think it's the dragon after? Where do you see both these teams looking to try and get themselves a full cemented foothold in this game? Because we've kind of just been pushing and pulling between the two teams at the moment.
JDG are more than likely going to have to fight for this next dragon, even if they don't really want to. Like, they don't even have a second item completed for themselves, whereas you're looking at, you know, Nerdy, the second item completed for Light. You're getting a lot more tanky stats coming through from Alan, the top side as well. They need to try and look for a pick, though, beforehand, and that's why they're hard committing for this mid turret to see if they can establish vision control bot side.
Three-man knockup there onto most of JDG, but you're 5v3 and still coming out fairly decently, and that was honestly, like you said, just a full kind of hard force there from JDG to say we want this mid tower, and LNG saying no.
Yeah, and I mean, for Ala, you're fine using the ult. You cleared the wave, which is what you really wanted to do. You bought time for LNG to come back towards this mid lane, and it's not like you have to be... You still have that ult available for Dragon when it's necessary.
Here we go. We're going to see them maybe go for something 369. It's the Arctic Assault himself away from a potential fight. We do have Light now on 2 items. It's a big moment here for LNG. 40 seconds until the dragon spawns. Doinb still sitting on an exhaust. That could be huge, and full flash is available across the board.
Yeah, that flash is also available for Doinb underneath that exhaust. He's been holding on to that exhaust for quite a while now, so just be aware that there will be basically 3 summoner spells up for Doinb in this next fight, and that could be absolutely key, especially when we talk about Kanavi potentially trying to look for a pick. It feels like that's the best way for them to try and start off a fight. Kick from Kanavi into lockdown from 369, follow up damage from Yagao and Hope. Well, Kanavi does run into Tarzan.
It does run into him, but no one else there to really kind of follow up on any damage onto the Lee Sin. Of course, still a Lee Sin, so very, very powerful at just keeping himself alive. 369 down towards this bottom half, and he's looking for a little bit of a separation of the fight. Not quite the greatest Weaver's Wall as the dragon has been started. They're going to try and burn this one down as quick as they possibly can, and here we go. It's going to be a 50-50. Never mind, they've got the Smite and the Ren, so they will secure it there, and there's going to be the Moonlight Vigil to try and slow down the disengage here from LNG. They're running away as best they can. They're going to commit a lot of damage there onto 369, but it's still a Lwandy. Eventually he will fall down. That was a fantastic hostile takeover. Missing and Hope are dead. There's a great pushback though from Yagao to try and keep this fight alive, but look at Light pushing forward. 4 kills for 1, and then he can turn around for the big purple worm.
LNG aren't going to be over chasing Kanavi. They're going to go straight towards that ejective. Kanavi and Tarzan, though, still have smites available, so you need to be so careful about keeping Kanavi out of the pit. Tarzan won the last smite fight, but he needs to try and do it again.
We're going try and make this one work. Tarzan also very, very low. If he really takes out too much damage, he could be in a little bit of trouble. Kanavi sneaking his way over to the side. He's trying to just maybe get himself up to level 13 before he goes for this fight. But no, he's not even going to go for it right now. He's just going to accept.
He's going to go.
I think he's just going to accept. Yeah, a little bit late on it, but accepts that the Baron's gone down. So that's going to be the Baron over to the side of LNG and Soul Point. 369, he's on a sneaky flank.
Yeah, Yagao even TPing into the mid lane. I mean, they're trying to see if they can use the resets from LNG to take this mid lane turret, maybe catch someone out.
369 does have access to the Glacial Prison. He's just biding his time. Will even pick up a little Raptor passively from his Bami's Cinder. Now they know that this Doinb now recognizes that that camp is no longer there. Lwandy will see that he's there. And ooh, insta flash there from Doinb. They will lose mid lane turret, but 369 gets himself a summoner.
Yeah, but that's what we're talking about, the Doinb having both the exhaust and that flash available, so managing to escape away there. But at least the mid lane turret goes to JDG, but LNG are in such a commanding spot here, and we'll see it. The fact that 369 and Kanavi end up on the wrong side of this fight means that it's so easy for LNG to just turn on towards Hope, Yagao, and Missing, and nobody here is tanky. You called it already, great hostile takeover comes through here from Lwandy right as this fight kicks off, because Kanavi gets the kick onto Doinb to cause some issues. But the hostile takeover sets up perfectly then for the follow-up. And your two tanks, or at least the tankier members of JDG, are on the wrong side of the fight.
Yeah, and again, it kind of comes down to the lack of cleanse here for Hope. Really kind of not really doing a lot for him. Missing, though, might be in a little bit of trouble here. Doesn't have flash, trying to get himself alive, but he gets hand shook into a really bad deal. That being said, so does Doinb. Doinb without a flash, but does get a nice seismic shove. Has got himself a bailout should he need it, but he's going to be able to keep himself alive. 369 now trying to run away. The Moonlight Vigil just missing out there as LNG continue to put their foot on the gas. They're continuing to push this in because they know they need to win it in the next 5 to 6 minutes, otherwise the scaling's too big from JDG.
Well, they're starting to accelerate this gold lead. 3k now, they're looking at the next turret. Only a minute left, so you'll have 2 more waves to work with here as LNG to try and crack open the bot side. Honestly, this has just been really good play from LNG though.
Yeah, the first time we've really been confident in them right there. 369 does throw out the Glacial Prison, lands on the Tarzan, but he's got a decoy, so he'll be totally fine. Light playing a little bit with the fire of JDG. And JDG is trying to stop these recalls because they've got Kanavi and Hope pushing in that mid lane for that tier 2.
Yeah, I mean, they're not going to get the tier 2. Doinb has too much wave clear, but this is, as you say, like, this is what we expect from LNG when we look at the nameplates that are on. Like, you should have Doinb been able to interact on the map. Tarzan finding good engages, like Lwandy looking great in team fights, and Ala not exactly on a split pusher, but still having great engages on this Orin. And we'll see it here, like Doinb trying to cut people off here, does manage to separate Missing from the rest of the team, so just the knockback is enough to get the kill onto Missing. And this is where I'm kind of surprised we get more follow-up. Like Kanavi and 369 think, oh, maybe we can actually pick off Doinb, but there's just no damage there. Great flick back from Doinb as well. Prevents the lockup coming through from 369. And then Tarzan finding that wonderful engage to make sure that they can get just a bit more wiggle room for the backline.
All right, Dagda, 50 seconds till Dragon Spawn. A lot of summoners are going to be coming up, but maybe not quick enough. We are going to see Hope maybe just a little bit shy of that, but Yagao, Kanavi even missing now, all having their summoners back available. 3 items onto the Talia, 3 items onto the Callista. This could be it. This could be the moment now. This game kind of cracks open for either side.
Again, 369 needs to be the one that finds a pick for them. They need to get rid of Doinb, get rid of Light before this kicks off, because in a straight-up 5v5, LNG are just stronger right now.
Weaver as well, trying to separate any kind of disengages. Hope does get jumped on here, and he's taking a lot of damage. Hope is dead, and it could be dead for this fight. LNG have found themselves the perfect opportunity. Missing goes down as Light picks up a double kill. Yagao trying to turn this one back on the Doinb, who goes into stasis. Does end up falling, but a 3-for-1, actually a 4-for-1 in favor of LNG. They don't even need a dragon. They could end the game.
Yeah, they're just going to go for the end. They have the TP from Ala to keep the minions alive if they need to, but split call here. They're not really sure exactly what they want to do. Looks like Tarzan and Ala will look for the base as, well, LNG look for the top laner, JDG.
Yeah, they're just trying to stop him right now.
Oh, he's on the blast cone!
Oh, he's on a blast cone! That's some Alcove gaming for you. There's the ace coming in. LNG will crack open the base. They'll even get themselves an Infernal Soul, and this mid-game spike is becoming a late-game problem for a JDG.
And the fact that 369 is off the table now for 35 seconds and has no TP means that they get to reset, establish vision control on top side, because JDG don't have a tank that can contest a 5-man push from LNG into the top jungle. And then they can just go, alright, well, Baron's up. Now you've got to work through these tight corridors against Doinb, against the Renata, against an Ornn ultimate. It becomes so hard to try and play this, but great setup here. Doinb love this wall. Prevents the retreat from JDG. Tarzan is already in a great spot to get the knock up, and you called it out. No flash for Hope was up and available, but JDG are just fighting backs against the wall, trying to see if they can get out because of that brilliant Weaver's Wall from Doinb.
Yeah, it just cuts off any escape, and they just said, cool, Hope is the one we can kill. If we commit everything to him, there's nothing he can do, and that's exactly what happened. I gotta call it Ala as well, having a fantastic game on the Ornn. Really has been on point with this pick. And again, we mentioned it a little bit at the start of the game. He has not had a good split. Honestly, he hasn't even having a good 2022, but this game right here seems to be a little bit of a redemption arc for him because he's playing so much better than he used to play.
I mean, LNG as a whole, we put the question mark for it, going like, how good would they look in this game? This is a great game from them. This isn't sloppy. This is really clean.
Here we go, 4-man Ornn ult, but then Doinb says, no, we shall let them live. We only take the tower. But now they can back up. They've got pressure in the jungle. They can decide to go for Baron, or they can decide to look for a pick outside in the fog of war.
Yeah, the biggest problem with trying to find a pick is no Ornn ultimate, no Talia ult. Makes it a little bit difficult to separate JDG. So I would be a bit nervous about turning to start up Baron. And also just the fact that, like, the hostile takeover can do a lot of work, but I'm not sure if it's going to be enough.
Might not be enough, but JDG find themselves now with a little bit of vision. TP's going to be coming out. Now they're looking for the full pick. They're going to use the Fate's Call to try and start this one off. There's Tarzan trying to jump on top of 369. There's Missing going down as well. You've lost 3 members. JDG, you thought you could maybe contest it, but because you thought the Ornn Horn and the Talia wall were down, but you still had engage options for LNG.
But Hope wasn't there. Hope was in the mid lane pushing the wave, so it's a 4 versus 5. So even with the ultimates from Ala and Doinb being down, just having enough of an engage from Tarzan sets them up. And this is game number 1, clean from LNG.
And Moonlight Vigil comes out. Hope finally flashes away from an engage, but the Weaver's Wall going to try and separate them out. They can't actually defend this turret. They can't get to it right now. And LNG will look to take game 1 against JDG. Not the result we were expecting in game 1, but it definitely deserved from LNG.
That was so much cleaner from LNG. We've talked about how they've been super messy around objectives, their team fights have been sloppy, their resets haven't been on point, and in fact, as Tarzan spills his water all over the place, you gotta look at it.
Yeah. Thankfully, that didn't happen during the game. We didn't get it right at the end.
Yeah, but
yeah.
Yeah, I gotta say, like, this was a much cleaner position from LNG. Like, playing around their composition well, around their spikes well, finding good team fights. Ala, phenomenal engages on the Ornn. I love this, like, X marks the spot style of composition with Talia wall cutting off one retreat, Ornn Horn coming in to get the other cut off. It was just a really, really nice time from LNG, and there was no sloppiness to it. Like, there wasn't people getting caught out. There wasn't people not resetting at the right times. It is actually LNG punishing JDG for some of the late resets that they went for. Like, this was a much smarter LNG than what we've honestly seen all split long.
Honestly, it was refreshing, to say the least, from LNG. And for JDG, a little bit worrying. They didn't get a lot of the things they needed to go. Like you said, they were getting a pick or two, but it was costing them so many resources. I remember the TP they used to catch out Doinb up on that top side, but it didn't really lead to anything. It wasn't a tower. There wasn't an objective to take. And those were the big moments there. And honestly, I think that you're hitting the nail right on the head for JDG, or sorry, for LNG. LNG just were playing smarter. They were playing more consistently and just knew how to execute on their composition. It was, again, a great game for them. And again, we talked about how good is this team. If they can play like this is how good they can be.
And that's the thing. This was a squad that we kind of looked at and went, look, you're playing against weaker opponents. You were struggling massively. Barely beating LGD. Having a really rough time against them. And honestly, some of the mistakes that LGD made in decision-making was the reason that LNG were able to take that series. Same with TT, yeah. Like, there was a ton of stuff there was like, look, this is not clean. This is not good. But this game, much more resounding success. Doinb looking great on the Talia. His walls were on point. Lwandy's ultimates were amazing. Ala had a great time with the Ornn getting that counter pick there. this was amazing stuff from LNG.
It really, really was. And again, I'm very impressed with the turnaround we saw from the likes of Ala. Light having a very consistent game as well. 7-0 and 8 on this Callista. And we had question marks. Again, this was not an easy to execute composition. This was a composition that needed to get the dragon stacking, that needed to hit their mid-game spike and continue forward. And it did just that.
So I'm actually excited now to see what the story is with game 2. Because, I mean, if LNG 2-0 JDG cleanly, that is such a massive story for LNG. With the way that this split has gone, how about even the way Spring went, having this level of consistency and this level of coordination is absolutely great. Now, I still think there were moments where they could have done more in the early stages of the game, where Doinb could have tried to make some more plays down towards the bot side with the Weaver's wall. I think losing their top lane turret definitely hurt them in the ability to do that. But, I mean, look, I'm not going to look to gift horsing them out. This was a fantastic game from LNG as Oisin disappears. So we're going to cut over to a quick break because Oisin's decided to cut off his camera. I think he's still here with me, but
I am still here.
Okay, we'll be back just after this. Don't go anywhere because apparently LNG are popping off.